So it's officially the offseason for the Indiana Pacers, and it's going to be a very crucial period as they have a ton of things to settle. Firstly, free agency signings, to the draft, to even roster changes. And as they are rebuilding right now, it's definitely worth noting that they do have the draft lottery coming up right after the playoffs, and they are projected with the 5th overall pick in this year's draft. And with this top 5 pick, they can definitely boost their rebuild and build around not only their draft prospect, but also their young pieces in Tyrese Halliburton and Isaiah Jackson. And they also have some contracts in Buddy Hield and Malcolm Brogdon, who they can decide to trade in the draft or even, in the offseason, which could be a possibility. I made a video about this yesterday, talking about Russell Westbrook for Malcolm Brogdon and Buddy Hield. If you guys want to check that out, you can. But we're going to break it down talking about my expectations for their offseason moves and what they should be doing moving forward. So what's up? My name is Pacers Empire. If you like video, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it, and let's get into the video. So firstly, we have free agency. So the Pacers, they have a ton of expiring contracts such as TJ Warren and Jalen Smith, and it's really coming into question of if the Pacers are able to bring back some of these players. I'd understand not bringing back players like Ricky Rubio because he's been injured for most of the year and got traded for Karis LeVert. TJ Warren obviously being very injury prone too. But Jalen Smith, he's been a huge pickup, since the trade deadline. He's been absolutely amazing, and him being only 22 years old, he fits in with the time frame, and I think that should definitely be their priority going into the offseason, is bringing Jalen Smith or bringing him back, and then getting some other young pieces alongside Halliburton and him and, Isaiah Jackson. So I would expect the Pacers to at least pursue some type of forward in the offseason, as they are lacking in the forward positions, especially in the small forward department. I mean, it's been very, very vacant for most of the season. Buddy Hield, he has been playing some of that, I want to say, or maybe even like the shooting guard. It's going to be hard to find a good forward in this free agency class. I think this is a little bit of a weaker class compared to previous ones, but they should be able to get at least some type of forward. I've mentioned this last video. Taylor Horton-Tucker of the Lakers would be a pretty great fit on this team, but he would probably have to be paired alongside Russell Westbrook because he's been rumored to be, moved in the offseason, and him alongside Taylor Horton-Tucker could be a good package for the Indiana Pacers. So they also need some good pieces to build around Tyrese Halliburton. More shooters would be more optimal, as Halliburton is the main focus of the offense, and he does have the playmaking ability to hit shooters from wherever. Right? Halliburton this season has been absolutely amazing. If you look at his overall stats this season, he's averaging 15 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists. So 15 and 8, which is pretty great for someone that's only around 22 years old. He's going to be the future, and they really do need to build around him and their draft prospect that they hopefully get within the top 5. So next we have the draft. It's going to be very crucial for the Pacers' future, as they really do need a top 4 pick in this year's draft. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but this is basically a top 4 draft, with Jabari, Chet, Paolo, and Jaden Ivey, even him. Honestly, Chet, Paolo, or Jabari would be huge for this team, as they fit in with this team pretty perfectly, all of them providing some good size at the forward position / center position. And with Chet Holmgren and Jabari providing some good defense, Paolo also gives some good offense. And looking at Jaden Ivey, who would also be a pretty underrated pickup, him alongside Tyrese Halliburton would actually be pretty amazing, and the idea of him and Halliburton in the backcourt would be pretty unreal. The Pacers also have the 16th pick and could look for some hidden gems in the draft. I think Jaden Hardy would be a pretty cool pick. Not saying that they would pick him, but I think he on the Pacers would be pretty cool. And the Pacers could also look to get a scoring guard off the bench, like I said, Jaden Hardy alongside Mcconnell, because if we look at the bench right now, I don't really see a player on this team scoring in double figures some nights or even at all. TJ Mcconnell is definitely the best player off the bench for them, and he isn't even a guard that's going to be scoring. He's someone that's going to be distributing the ball, rebounding the ball, and doing everything that the Pacers need except scoring. So bringing Jaden Hardy, bringing a good scoring guard off the bench, it really just helps with the scoring. And looking at it right now, the Pacers are definitely struggling with some bench depth issues. So if we take some examples from other teams, the Rockets, Josh Christopher, who was a 24th pick in last year's draft or this year's draft, he wasn't even supposed to play a ton of games this year, but he's been dropping some 20 and 30-point games off the bench and with some limited minutes too. And if the Pacers can get someone of his caliber, someone like him that can score some nights 20 points, some nights 30 points, or even just grabbing some rebounds or playing some good defense, I think their future is going to be set. Because if they do get someone like Josh Christopher, not saying that they're going to be the exact same player, whoever they get, I think off the bench, they really do need a good six-man with TJ McConnell. I think he's around 29 to 30 years old. He's not fitting in with the time frame and could be looked as a veteran, and I'm not too sure if the Pacers would really want to bring him back. I think off the bench, he would be a good presence, but he's getting up there in age. So finally, they also have some trades to make. I mentioned this in previous videos, but the contracts of Malcolm Brogdon and Buddy Hield are really hindering the Pacers' ability to sign free agents, as they both are making 20+ million each year. And the Pacers do really need to flip both players for some more draft capital, and that could be through this year's draft. I think pairing Malcolm Brogdon, Buddy Hield, and their pick this year to move up in the draft could be a possibility. Or even if they don't trade both of them in the draft, I think in the offseason they could trade them for some first-round picks, because I think Malcolm Brogdon is definitely worth a first-round pick to whichever team he goes to. Same thing with Buddy Hield. I think he's definitely worth a first-round pick with his shooting ability. So they have a lot of things to think about. Off the bench, I think Goga Bitadze could also be a good look for a trade. Now, he did actually play pretty well for the Pacers in the second half of the season, but that could also prove to be pretty valuable if they do want to flip him. So if not this year's draft, like I said, they can also look for some more potential first-round picks in the future for more draft capital, but I think it would be more optimal if they dealt both players this season, with both their contracts being 20+ million each. So overall, I do believe in the Pacers and what they're able to do right now with their rebuilding stage, and I think the front office is going to do a phenomenal job in the offseason, get some good players. And I'm just really hoping that the Pacers get a top 4 pick. It would be absolutely amazing. I'm really hoping that the Pacers are this year's Raptors. You know, with the Raptors, they weren't even projected to go in the top 4 in this year's draft, but if somehow the Pacers can get a top 4 pick, kind of like the Raptors, I think it would be absolutely amazing. And if they do, I think they could make a Cinderella run at the playoffs next season. So we'll see. Hopefully the Pacers can get it done, and go Pacers. That's the video. My name is Pacers Empire. I'm out. Peace.